Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take the information you want to explore and, well, we dive into it together, trying to cut through the noise, get to those real insights.
Yeah, we know you're curious, you want to learn, but maybe you don't have time for, getting bogged down in jargon.
Exactly. We're aiming for those uh, moments, that kind of clear understanding, delivered in a way that really respects your time.
And today, we've got something pretty fascinating. It's a YouTube transcript
Right.
from the Real One channel. It features Acharya Sachin Bharadwaj, and the topic is Tantric Ghost Rituals.
Okay.
So our mission really is to dive deep into the source, explore the ideas around Pada spirituality, even some occult stuff mentioned.
And pull out what's surprising, what's actually meaningful in there.
Precisely.
Okay, so Tantra. I think for a lot of people, the word itself, it brings up certain images, right? Maybe those more intense practices, the various, that kind of.
Right. Yeah, that's a common association. But what's interesting in the source material is how quickly it pivots. It moves beyond that.
How so?
Well, it introduces something called Saryaparada Katran.
Mm.
And instead of focusing on those, let's say, more notorious aspects,
Mm.
Acharya Bharadwaj presents it as like a different path entirely, almost a science.
A science.
Yeah, the science of becoming Shiva or becoming Bhairav is how it's put. It's like a different way to even understand what Ortran is.
Bhairav, the destroyer of fear and attachment.
Yeah.
God, I like that framing. And the origin story sounds pretty interesting, too.
It really is. So the transcript describes Parvati asking Shiva, what are you, really?
Uh-huh.
And Shiva's response isn't just some abstract philosophy. He gives her 112 methods, practical techniques.
Wow, 112.
Yeah. As the way for her, and really anyone, to experience that truth directly, not just think about it.
It's quite a hands-on approach to enlightenment, as a moving away from just ritual towards, like, direct experience.
Exactly. Which then leads the discussion into human energy.
Okay, energy, chakra.
Yep. The transcript mentions the chakras, specifically focusing on the ones above the heart, the anahata, so Vishuddhi, Ajna, and Sahasrara.
The throat, the third eye, the crown.
Right. And there's this concept of the human triangle formed by these. The idea is the significance of our energy rising up to the top, to Sahasrara.
And reaching Sahasrara, that's described as, what, transformative, like becoming Shiva-like, seeing the true Kailash within.
That's the idea. And then there's this beautiful analogy used involving Radha and Krishna.
Oh, okay. Their union, their Milan.
Exactly. But it's presented not just as, a romantic story. It symbolizes that upward flow of energy, Urdhvagaman, they call it.
Right, Urdhvagaman.
Meeting pure consciousness, represented by Krishna or Shiva at the Sahasrara. And that meeting point, that's Paramras.
Ultimate bliss, self-realization.
So the love story, the union of Shiva and Parvati, it's all pointing towards that deeper self-understanding, Atma Sakshatkar.
That's a really profound connection. But, okay, the conversation in the source, then, takes a bit of a turn, doesn't it, towards the occult side?
Yes, and this brings up a big question, one you might have too. Can you actually use a Parakan to connect with, like, parallel dimensions, ghosts, other entities?
Yeah, that's often the draw for some people, I think.
Well, the transcript is pretty clear that there aren't, like, direct recipes for this. It says it depends heavily on the practitioner, the sadhak.
On their intention, their manadasha, their mental state.
Exactly. Your deep purpose and your state of mind are key. It does mention specific concepts from Minojan Akifizyu, these taranas.
Right, concentrations.
Yeah.
Like number 55 about fear, transmuting fear.
Yes. Bai means shitojana, basically staying in the fear.
Which sounds totally counterintuitive.
It does. But the idea is that the energy of the fear itself can potentially take you beyond the ordinary. Maybe open access to other realms, spirits, prets, pishachas, yakshas, all sorts of beings.
But it still depends on your intention, right? Where you want that energy to take you.
Absolutely. And there's another one mentioned, number 31.
What's that one?
Focusing on the space between two breaths or even between two thoughts.
Ah, that gap.
Yeah. Reaching that specific stage, that padav of stillness, that's also described as a potential way to shift your energy, your awareness into other dimensions. There's power in the pause, basically.
Which naturally brings up questions about experience itself. How do we know it's real? There's that little story in the transcript.
Oh.
Someone feeling pushed, vision blurring.
Right. And the question, was that real? Or just imagination?
Yeah.
And the answer given is quite interesting. It says, any experience that leaves a mark on your mind, your chit, well, it's real for you.
Like the stomachache analogy they use. You feel it even if no one else sees it. It's your reality.
Exactly. And that applies to everything, from experiencing the divine, if you do, to believing in ghosts or even being an atheist. Truth, in this context, is what impacts your consciousness.
Okay, so building on that, the power of the mind, our inner energy.
Yes. The transcript really emphasizes that a powerful, focused mind can work with any energy. And that consistent practice of K-Patris, Dami, the energy, ideally with guidance.
Can lead to that state of Bhairav, that fearless state.
That's the claim. And the deities like Bhairav aren't just external beings to worship, they're symbols of inner potential. You can awaken the Bhairav Tattva, the essence of Bhairav, within yourself.
Which is why Bhairav is called the Acharya, the main teacher of all Daidwan.
Precisely. And then it introduces Mahakali alongside Bhairav.
The feminine aspect.
The feminine aspect of Shakti, of power, their union, their Milan, is fundamental to creation, like, positive and negative charges.
Okay. Now, this is important. There's a clarification about Bhairavi Sadhana, right? Because it gets misunderstood.
Hugely misunderstood, often linked incorrectly to, objectifying women and just focusing on the physical act, Samhoga Kriya.
But that's not it.
Not the real essence. Bhairavi is actually a form of the divine mother Malairavi, Tripur Bhairavi. The Bhairavi Tattva is the feminine counterpart to the inner Bhairav energy.
So their union, Harav and Bhairavi Milan,
symbolizes the Shiva-Shakti union, the cosmic dance. And this, importantly, can be practiced within Grahastha Jivan, within household life. It's not separate.
But some traditions, like Kolachara and Vamachara, they've distorted this.
That's what the source suggests, leading to negative interpretations. It does touch upon traditional practices that might involve a physical Bhairavi and semen retention techniques, Adroli Mudra, Mula Bandhav. But it really stresses, that the true aim is that inner Shiva-Shakti union, that upward energy movement, Urdhvagaman, not just the physical act.
And Osho's famous phrase is mentioned, from sex to samadhi.
Yes, then and hull through Bhairavi Sadhana, it points to the potential to transform that very fundamental energy.
Through yoga, meditation, mulband, guiding it up to Sahasrara.
Exactly. But again, it's a practice. It's not, an instant thing. It takes dedication.
So if someone does this practice, raises their energy, what are the benefits? Does it help with, modern life stress?
Absolutely. The transcript mentions alleviating anxiety and stress. The IT professional example is used. But also the potential to become, a Mahamanava.
A superhuman.
Someone with heightened abilities, unlocking deeper understanding, increasing efficiency in life.
And it talks about awakened darshan vision and observation.
Deeper perception, yes. Even the possibility of perceiving others' thoughts when you're in that deep state of tan, that emptiness, shunyata.
And the third eye opening. It's not literal.
No, not a physical eye popping open. It's about enhanced senses, intuition. It connects to lucid dreaming, which is actually mentioned as a Vijnana Tantra technique, staying awake in the dream.
Like the Bhagavad Gita says, the yogi is awake when the world sleeps. A different kind of awareness.
Precisely. And this heightened awareness in the present moment, it can apparently lead to Trikaldarshita.
Knowing past, present, and future. Wow. That's a big potential benefit.
It really highlights the transformative scope these practices aim for. Then the discussion gets a bit more practical, talking about things like yantras.
Right, those geometric diagrams, preparing them, energizing them with mantra chanting, invoking Shakti.
And even sending them by post, with specific instructions for how you should install them in your home.
And providing a recorded mantra for recharging, with a sankalp, a vow, for 41 or 51 days.
Yeah, it's quite a detailed process described. And interestingly, a specific technique from Vigyan Bhairav Tantra is integrated here, Tratak.
Steady gazing, I've heard of that.
Yes. The source mentions the ancient way gazing at a reflection in water, focusing on the Ajna chakra, the third eye point, while mentally reciting a mantra.
Mentally, not out loud.
Right. Mental recitation keeps the energy inward, more focused, supposedly more powerful.
And the modern method.
Sitting before a mirror, specific distance, gazing at your own Ajna chakra, no blinking ideally, while mentally repeating the mantra. Often using a specific mala, prayer beads, consecrated, maybe a color linked to the deity.
And this Tratak is considered key for activating the third eye.
One of the best techniques, according to the source. There's even a story about a Nath Sampradaya sadhu.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently moving a mugdal, those heavy wrestlers clubs, moving it just with his eyes, with his focused gaze, no touching.
That's intense concentration.
It really paints a picture, and this relates to the host's own experience mentioned in the source, in the jungle, encounters with animals after practicing trata.
Right, but it's clarified that it wasn't like an order given to the animals. It was a vinati, a request.
Born from prem, from love, a desire to see the ultimate reality, the param tattva.
Asking for a darshan, a sighting, of tigers and leopards, and then 2 appeared. That's quite a story.
It underscores the idea that prem, love, is this incredibly powerful force, even the energy used to deal with tantra baddha, obstacles. It's described as prem urja, love energy.
Okay, so shifting gears a bit, dealing with spirits, prets, negative entities. What does the source say about them?
They're often described as dukkha, sorrowful beings, sometimes formed from humans who died with strong attachments, or sometimes even, enslaved through rituals like shavasana, corpse rituals.
Grim. So how does one deal with them, according to this?
The idea is to give them gati, liberation, momentum to move on. This is often done through heaven fire rituals and specific mantra chanting, aiming to free them from whatever binds them.
And spirit binding. Ghost contracts? That sounds risky.
Very. The transcript mentions practitioners binding spirits through vows, but it apparently requires immense inner strength and control. There's a strong warning. Don't engage if you're not powerful enough.
And there's a personal story illustrating that. Being attacked.
Yes, an account of trying to help someone and being targeted by 3 powerful entities, hearing whispers, seeing black shadows, realizing it wasn't just imagination.
Yikes. Definitely highlights the potential dangers.
Yeah.
So how does all this relate to, say, astrology?
Interesting comparison. Astrology is presented as more predictive, right? It tells you what might happen based on planetary positions.
Okay.
Whereas Tantra is described as potentially transformative. It can change things. The example given is a negative ritual, like Marin Kriya. It might not even show up in an astrological chart.
So astrology might miss certain influences?
Potentially. The idea is that karma, action, is ultimately in our hands, and Tantra is a way to directly work with and influence that energy, that karmic flow.
So they're different tools. Astrology predicts, Tantra acts.
Kind of. The source even mentions astrologers sometimes advising clients to see an occult practitioner when the charts are unclear or seem blocked.
Right.
Vastu is also mentioned as separate.
Right. And a karma yogi uses action positively. But a Tantra practitioner could use it negatively or positively.
Exactly. So, unlike just reading destiny, Tantra holds the potential, at least according to this source, to actually change destiny.
Which leads into some specific case studies mentioned. Ghost-related ones.
Yeah, quite a few.
Yeah.
There's one about a hotel in Manali, room 303, knocking sounds, lift malfunctioning, weird heat.
Classic haunting sign.
Turned out it was traced to a disturbed spirit from an accident during the hotel's construction.
Wow. And another one, a family's property.
Yes, a Punjabi NRI family. Property issues, someone used a tantric act to reclaim it, but then things got bad in the house.
Like feeling slapped, a child feeling choked. That's terrifying.
Definitely. And the principle mentioned there is crucial. What starts with Tantra often ends with Tantra. Tantra se shuru huita tantra pehi khatam hogi.
So they needed a tantric solution.
Apparently, yes. Using Hanuman's protective energy, sending a Maruti yantra.
And the yantra acts like a continuous protection, maintained by the family's own practice.
That's the idea. The yantra anchors the Shakti, the power, in the home, and the user keeps it charged with their mantra jap and tritak.
Okay. Then the conversation shifts to something really mind-bending. Time distortion, space bending.
Yeah, Sami Rukjana. Time stopping.
Which can happen naturally, right? When you're totally absorbed in something enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. But it's also described as something that can happen through Tantra, specifically Vigyan Bhairav Tantra, when you reach that state of shunyata, the void, in meditation.
That connects back to the space between breaths again, doesn't it? That avasta.
Exactly. It's all linked. Which then brings us to manifestation, Sankalp Shakti.
The power of intention. Making things happen with your mind sounds a bit out there.
Well, the source addresses potential skepticism with that anecdote about Vivekananda and Ramakrishna Paramhansa testing the mind's power by trying to immerse an idol just with thought.
Right, and Ramakrishna had to intervene, teach about controlling that power.
Yeah, the point being the power is real, but needs wisdom. Nature, Prakriti, apparently doesn't fully awaken all our chakras because raw, uncontrolled power could be destructive.
And it comes back to personal experience again, doesn't it? Like the pain analogy. If you feel it, it's real for you. Same with belief in God or anything else.
Precisely. But it also critiques faith based just on mang, on asking for things, contrasting it with prem, love, and niswarth bhakti, selfless devotion.
Say the divine, Paramatma, is neutral, focused on karma.
And the Maya, the illusion of the world, is really the illusion created by our constant stream of thoughts.
So the key is sakshibhav,
Yeah.
witness consciousness, observing the thoughts without getting swept away.
Yes. And connecting karma yoga principles, achieving desires through focused, dedicated effort, not just wishing.
Like that example, complaining business is slow versus saying, it's great by God's grace. The focus matters. Tathastu.
So be it. Your words and thoughts have power. Then some specific entities are discussed. Karen Pichachini.
Yeah, the one that supposedly whispers current events in your ear.
Right. The source expresses some disbelief about future prediction, but maybe knowing the present. And Swapneshwari Davi.
Answers questions in dreams, but requires lucid dreaming ability.
Yeah, a higher state of consciousness is needed for that sadhana. There's an interesting anecdote about testing someone claiming Karen Pichachini's power.
What happened?
The person correctly identified the Acharya's college, which is impressive. But then after the Acharya did some internal mantra recitation, the person started making incorrect predictions, suggesting maybe the connection isn't foolproof or can be interfered with.
So some entities might offer info, but deeper spiritual practice is more reliable.
That seems to be the takeaway, which then leads into recent cases from the Real One audience. People who interacted after previous deep dives like this one.
Right, acknowledging positive feedback, but also warning about scams people encountered.
And sharing a success story, a property dispute resolved quickly using Betel to influence thoughts.
And international cases too, stuck funds.
Yeah, Canada, UK, Australia, sending Shakti through meditation and photos to influence minds towards repayment. It's quite a claim.
And that UK visa case didn't go as planned initially.
No, but resulted in an unexpected positive outcome, a dream remote job, which then opened another path to the visa via a domestic violence claim. Shows how things can unfold indirectly.
Relationship cases too, where Shakti intervention reveals deception, leading to either reconciliation or breakup.
Yeah, the focus seems to be on boosting the person's inner strength, connecting them to spirituality for their own well-being, whatever the outcome.
And lots of inquiries about ghosts and possessions, leading to that big Bollywood actress case.
Yes, a very recent, powerful one. It highlights the prevalence of, well, black magic in competitive environments like the entertainment industry, driven by jealousy.
And her symptoms were severe. Overeating, acne, excessive sleep, drinking, nightmares, even vomiting blood. Elect getting a good role.
Really alarming symptoms, and the cause was traced back to her hair.
Taken by a makeup artist for a jealous friend.
Yes, used for specific rituals, Musalmani Kriya and Dakini Vidya, resulting in two entities, male and female, becoming attached to her.
And other practitioners she consulted couldn't help, or even made it worse.
Apparently. Stones like Rudraksha caused fever. Another tantric sent a female entity that also got bound by the negative forces already there. It got complicated.
So how is it resolved?
Using something called Agnivital and performing 3 Mahahabans major fire rituals to counter the effects.
And that freed the spirits, all 3.
Yes, liberated them, which allowed the actress to recover, and she apparently got success in a new project afterwards.
It's quite a story, and it revisits the power of these entities, potentially linked back to Vigyan Bhairav Tantra techniques, like Brahmarakshas, Asuras.
Yes, drawing that connection again. Using the weapon analogy energy, Uja is neutral. It's how you use it.
Which brings up negative uses and consequences. Land defects, Bhumidosh.
Right, another case study. Property dispute, someone buried a bottle with photos, teeth, hair, dark ritual stuff, tamasic kriya.
To harm the other family.
Yes, and the consequences were severe. Heart attack, car accident, construction stopped, feeling pushed. Classic signs of strong and negative energy work.
And resolving that kind of shamshanik kriya, cremation ground ritual, was difficult.
Very. Took months of intense meditation, Dian. The source even mentions the Acharya feeling targeted by the negative energy during the process.
Wow. So moving towards the end, there's an offer to the listener, a practice.
A simple seva, a spiritual practice for energy upliftment, encouraging you, the listener, to recognize your own potential.
And revisiting Sambhoga, sexual union, briefly, addressing the question of increasing time through occult means.
Yes, acknowledging it's possible through yoga mudras, mantras, understanding energy, but emphasizing the mind's role, self-control, sanyam.
and mentioning energy blockages as common issues, while clarifying ED as medical. Chakra healing is part of it.
Hmm. But circling back to the main point about Paravisadhana
Mhm.
between partners, it must be about prem, love, spiritual union, not exploitation.
Absolutely. And finally, manifestation, Sankalp Shakti, again, stressing thoughtlessness, Vicharshunyata, for it to be truly powerful.
Yes, that state beyond the constant chatter of the mind.
And the deep dive wraps up with that thought. Finding the divine, Narayan, in unexpected places, and the importance of inner purity, like washing with Ram Nam Ke Sabun, the soap of God's name.
A powerful closing image. So thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, we really hope exploring this transcript offered some, deeper insights into these energies, both within you and maybe in the world around you.
Definitely keep exploring these ideas. Think critically. Stay open-minded about reality, about consciousness.
And maybe reflect on your own experiences too. Keep seeking knowledge. That's what it's all about, isn't it?